Hi, this is Dr. Darshan Shah. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Next Health, and I'm here with my co-founder, Kevin Peak, who's joining us to interview my very good friend, Jen Cohen.
Thank
And
you.
for those of you who have had your head under a rock for the last few years and you don't know who Jen Cohen is, she's one of the top influencers in health and wellness by like everybody's list, WebMD,
Uh,
Axe,
oh yeah,
Dr. Axe's
Axe,
list, like every list I could think of.
Greatest. I was in like USA
Forbes
Today,
and
Forbes. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. So she's definitely one of the top people in the country
it's too nice, too
in the health
kind.
and wellness space, and we are so lucky and blessed to have her here on the Next Health Forefront podcast. Um, she's done more than just be on lists. She's written quite a few books on health and wellness. She writes articles for Forbes magazine. She writes articles for Entrepreneur magazine, and it's not just around health. You write a lot about health and entrepreneurship and how they kind of tie together, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's a dovetail there. I do a lot. I mean, my background before I was even in fitness was really I was like an executive for a music company. So I kind of like I'm more of an I think of myself as an entrepreneur who just so happens to be in the fitness business or the
Right.
wellness and health business because I love it so much. And I think that I think with fitness, what it does, it teaches people discipline, goal setting. You know, when you have like a certain thing you're trying to accomplish, and then you accomplish it, and then you kind of push through to the next thing.
Uh-huh.
So I think that there's like a natural dovetail between going into fitness and then dovetailing into more personal development and productivity because of the traits and the skills that you do learn from the fitness world.
Right.
And that's kind of what I with between my old background and like, I just feel like everything kind of is that way. And that's what I really do write about and talk about more. It's about not so much about how to do a squat and lunge, which I do as well, because that's at the core what people like to know when in the fitness world. But it's more about how do you what's your behaviors or what's your mindset like to want to do those things, and like how to have the discipline to continue, how to be motivated. And that's like I love that stuff, and that's why I try to teach and to people who are
Yeah.
interested.
That's actually, I mean, there definitely is a huge parallel between being an entrepreneur and also being fit and healthy. And especially in your mindset, like you're saying, like it's that mindset of staying on course and breaking through barriers and having routines and habits and being positive. All those traits in your mindset will help you become a fit person and become a successful entrepreneur. And you tie those two together.
Absolutely. Like I'm a big believer that how you do one thing in life is how you're going to do everything else in life. And I think what fitness taught me and what fitness does for a lot of people, there is a correlation between people who take fitness seriously and successful people in both personal and professional, not just one. And I think, like we were saying, like when you take fitness seriously, no matter what it is, what that fitness, it could be yoga, it could be CrossFit, it could be running, but like what that type of thing does, it teaches people that discipline and, like I said, the goal setting, and it's about changing that mental mindset of being like, mentally tough, which then translate to physical toughness. I'm sorry, I'm not even looking at you. I apologize. I'm being very rude. I just automatically look at Darshan because I know you. So hi, Kevin.
He's a handsome guy too.
He is a handsome guy, exactly, and he's looking great these days. I have to say,
Thanks.
All right.
you
is
are.
is he not a great example of what
Absolutely.
what we do here,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I think that he's taking it to the next level at Next Health.
Well, thank you.
But no, listen,
You're
I agree
welcome.
with everything that you say as well, and I think, you really are the perfect embodiment of what you're talking about.
Oh, now, Kevin.
But really, it is. I mean, you're a fitness, influencer, but I mean, this business that you've created. I'm interested in where you kind of made that transition. So going from being in the music industry to then transitioning over to fitness, and then creating this ginormous brand of yourself.
Oh, wow.
To where you're one of the most recognized people in this space. What was it, a conscious choice, or how did that segue happen?
Well, thank you. I wouldn't say one of the most recognizable, but I appreciate the flattery will get you everywhere with me. So thank you. No, I would say this. I've always been someone who's liked to be active and fit. It wasn't, but it wasn't something in my brain that I was going to, have this as a career option. So, I'm a nice Jewish girl from Canada, and I think that part of my culture is to go to school, education, and another part is food. So really, it was kind of the fact that I just loved to eat so much food that I kind of started to exercise more just to kind of balance out my food, like not my food addiction, not in a bad way, but part of in a cultural way, right? Being socialized that way. And so I went to school. I went to get my undergrad and then a psychology degree, which I always had. I always was naturally very interested in human nature and the psychology of why people do what they do. And from there, I went on to get a business degree in sports marketing for sports. And when I went to the music world, it was kind of like a strange segue because initially I actually worked for the Toronto Raptors, which was a basketball team, right? And I went back to school. That was my job right out of my first degree. And then I went thinking I was going to go back to the Raptors after I got a little bit more education because that's what people do. And then I got poached by a record label in Canada. I'm Canadian. And I went to work at BMG Music, which was a total nothing to do with anything. But like I said, it was just one thing I liked to do. I knew I was going to I liked business. I liked psychology. I wasn't really sure. I was a young kid. So when I got a job to come out to LA to go to a different label here, it was kind of like, again, what I was kind of doing, the path. And then from that, I kind of hit a point where I was kind of like, the music world's changing. I'm not really, it was like the Napster days, MP, it was all that stuff, whereas it was just not going to be a career that I can see myself in 5 years. So I quit my job. I was young. I was on a worker's visa here in the US. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to become a trainer just, because I liked it. Like I said, it was my hobby. I like to be active. I thought, you know what, I'll become a trainer. I'll do it for a little bit and try to figure out my next move. And then from that moment, I went, like I said, I was young. I got my training, my first certification. And then from that, what happened was I thought to myself, okay, now I'm working at these labels. I've had the relationships now because I was in LA at a label, in Canada working at a label. I knew a lot of music contacts. I thought, wouldn't it be interesting, because I know how the marketing dollars work in each label, and I know what they have to do with these artists. What if I go back to them and kind of create my own job, so to speak? So I pitched myself as a label trainer, which I'd be like train the talent before they go and do a video or before they do a tour. And I would take a retainer. And so that's basically what I pitched to one label. And it worked out. And from one label, I got 2 labels, 3 labels. And that's how I started to build a business in fitness. So I started to have a few trainers who worked underneath me, because you can't be at all places at one time. And from that, that's literally like how I kind of just segued from being in the world of being in the business space, being an executive in a music space or a sports team, into pivoting into using the same qualities that I had as from who I am, and just basically transitioning them into a different area. Because again, it's like a lot of times, a lot of these these traits are transferable from one industry to another, which is tenacity, discipline, hard work, resourcefulness. I mean, you could do that in music, fitness, botany, whatever what you choose, right? So that's how I kind of started building in the fitness world. And then from that, I got a book deal. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to get a book deal, I want it to be something that has legs and traction. I'm sorry, now I'm only looking at you. And I called my first book No Gym Required, because I thought that had a lot of legs. And I think I had a really good message and philosophy that I really believed in, which was, I never say the gym is bad. I love the gym, but it's giving people an opportunity to be healthy without needing to go to the gym. So it was really my overall philosophy, saying, you know what, if you don't want to go to the gym, that's not an excuse not to be healthy, not to be fit, not to take care of yourself. Right. And here are simple solutions of what you can do every day that are going to help you with your health. So that's basically my first book and my first company. And I'm till this day, which that book was 10 years old already, that's still like the through line of everything that I talk about and believe in, because it's really about building healthy habits and tweaking something a little bit here and there that don't require you working out at the gym, that really make you healthier and change your lifestyle for the better. And that was then I was off to the races, and that was now fitness, health was now going to be my my career, my passion, my everything was going into that, because I figured out a way to make my passion an actual job, which I think is important for people in general in life. You're not try to make what you love, try to make money at what you love versus just trying to stick a circle, into a square, because you're never going to be happy, and you're never going to you're never going to hit past a certain threshold if you don't love and have passion for what you want to do.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Your first book was No Gym Required, and I love that. Because that came out right in the middle of when everyone was thinking that if you bought a gym membership,
right,
then all of a sudden
exactly.
you're healthy. Came out the perfect time, because everyone is ignoring the fact that going to the gym is just one piece of being healthy.
Absolutely.
Not all of it. And there's so much more. In fact, we know now through just research and science that you don't really need to go to the gym that much to stay healthy. You really just need 30 minutes a day of some cardio.
Of activity.
Exactly. Right.
Absolutely. At the time, it seems to be kind of what happens. No one was talking about no gym required at all. In fact, I trademarked that name. And if I wanted to, I can probably go sue every single magazine to this day. But then what's that going to do, right?
And then you won't be writing for anything.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'd kind of be screwing myself. But I totally 100% agree. Number one, fitness as the activity portion doesn't have to be fancy. And I think that people get stuck and caught up in the quickest, fastest fad to get to a certain place. It's what's that magic pill? And the reality is, basic exercise still to this day works the best. I know that you people want to think it's this and that, and you add this, and then it's everyone's hybriding everything. It's going to be boxing, Pilates, and yoga with trapeze artists. It's becoming so insane. And the reality is, guess what? A basic squat, a basic lunge, a push-up, a pulling exercise, and some kind of core exercise, you're going to be fine. But guess what? No one likes to hear that.
I was at a yoga class where they were twerking in the yoga class.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sweat Theory. They have a twerk yoga class.
Okay, have you been to the goat yoga?
No, but I've seen it all over Instagram.
You're basically doing yoga with goats. People will do anything just to kind of,
convince themselves to have some activity.
Exactly.
It's all about they're trying to trick themselves into being more active by doing this stuff.
It's absurd to me, and it's guess what? Just walk out your door and walk around the block a few times, and the benefits are even better. And so, by the way, just as you were saying, not to I don't want to steer too far away from what you were saying, but I think other things besides fitness, it's diet, it's sleep, it's doing some kind of restorative thing with either being meditation, spiritual, whatever it is. There's so many different components to being healthy and being well that people don't want to really, not people, but that sometimes isn't highlighted as much than just going to the gym, because that is just one slice of a pie that encompasses so much more. And I think that's why I still think no gym now 10 years later, no gym required is actually more relevant. I should actually basically relaunch that book, because it's really what I truly believe in, and what people are now kind of I hope are understanding more.
Yeah. It's like you said, people always thought the pie of health was basically exercise and nutrition.
Right.
That's it, just got divided in half. And then a few years ago, finally people started adding that third little piece of sleep in there. But really, there's so much more to it. That's why we have the wellness wheel, because we really have divided up into 12 different segments, including, as you know, the detoxifying your life, heart health, gut health, which is huge now as well. You have to think about all these things. And sometimes, if you're going to the gym for 2 hours a day and you're eating, what you think is a healthy diet, maybe it's keto or whatever. But if you're totally living in a completely toxic environment, you're just, you're fighting this uphill battle no matter what. You have to consider all of it, right?
You got to consider everything. And I think that people, again, I think too much information could be very dangerous, right? And it's an overload. And what people do, I get a million questions a day about, what do you think about, should I do the keto diet? How about intermittent fasting? What do you think of the paleo thing? What about this? What should I be doing HIIT training? Should I be doing? The reality is this. I think that, number one, when it comes to activity, do what you like. Because if someone says to you, or I say to you, you know what? do HIIT training or do run, or you should run or do this, but you don't like it, guess what? You're not going to end up doing it, and then it's moot. Then you're not going to do anything. So like try a lot of stuff, find what you like, what you gravitate to, and make those things what you actually do as your activity. It's really that simple.
It is very simple.
It is that simple. And then in terms of dieting, it's the same stuff. Like the problem I have with a lot of these fad diets is, everything works short term, right? I know a million people, and there's a lot of, and I know you're the doctor, and there's a lot of background on like why intermittent fasting is so successful and why it works and the benefits of it, and why keto is. And my only thing is, if it's not sustainable for your lifestyle, that's the thing. If it's not sustainable for your lifestyle, then is it something that you should be participating in? So I try to look at and I try to be very practical and real. And I think with people, I say, you know what, like, look at your lifestyle and be realistic with what works for you. Because if you're trying to, again, do what's cool and in right now because your friend and that mom and this sister, is doing the intermittent fasting and they're getting great results, that's great. Try it. But be cognizant of the fact that if that's not something that you can do long term, be okay with the fact that you're trying it for now. But really, I think it's about having moderation and like being cognitive and being mindful of what you're intaking, what you're eating, and what you're doing in versus out. Sometimes it's like the simple stuff that people sometimes just like shy away from. They don't want to hear. And the things that get a lot of like traction, or the people that get a lot of traction, are the people that have these like very more of a exciting message.
Right.
Yeah,
It's the new fad.
It's the new fad.
Right.
So people are like, who cares about you, Jennifer? You're boring. You talk about like squat, a push up, and like being mindful of what you eat. I want to hear about what this person's saying.
Right.
You know?
What would you say are the base requirements? So when you say do what you love, what if someone just loves walking around the block? I mean, that's great, but that's really not going to change their life.
Right, absolutely.
When you say do what you love, what are the base requirements that you should at least encompass?
Okay, so are we talking about life or are we talking about fitness right now?
Let's say fitness.
Okay. So with fitness, like you said, now if you just want to walking is the number one best thing you can do for yourself, right? We can all agree on that in terms of like cardiovascular, just in terms of just your overall, right? Now, as you get older, strength training becomes much more important, right? So I think that understanding the fact that, walking is fantastic. My mother, knock on wood, she's been good because she walks everywhere. She does a lot of walking, so she's very youthful at a certain age, correct? Well, I'm telling you, she is. Now, does she do a ton of strength training? No. But does she incorporate a little bit to kind of maintain, to have some kind of maintenance? Yes. So I think that, yes, do what you love, but also recognize that there are certain things that come into play where take yourself to the next level, be it fitness, be it just health overall, you need to start incorporating different things. So again, pick what you like in that pocket. Like if you don't love weight training, okay, I understand that. But can you do the bare minimum that can get you from A to B to kind of maintain or to kind of keep you healthy and strong, or to change your body? Or pick what you want more. Like, what is your goal? Mm-hmm. So if you have a certain goal in mind that you want to attain, then unfortunately, some people don't want to hear this. You're going to have to do more than just walking. If you want to be healthy, definitely walking. If you want to start seeing definition in your muscles, if you want to be able to be tight and hard and your whatever, guess what? Unfortunately, you're going to have to do more than walk. You're going to have to incorporate some other intensive modes of movement to get to that place.
Mm-hmm. Right. But you talk about that in Strong as a New Skinny, your next book, right?
Right. So then my next book, great segue.
It's a great segue to your next book.
Always good. So then my next book was called Strong as a New Skinny, which still kind of had the same no gym required through line. But why I wrote that book was really, and I talk about this actually in No Gym Required too, was that it started to be a real, it bothered me when I see so many girls, especially from my world in the music world, that at a young age when they get signed. And I see it from everyday people to like people who are famous or whatnot. People are never satisfied or happy with what God's given them. So when I say that, I feel like if you're a size 6, you want to be a size 4. If you're a size 2, you want to be a size 0. And sometimes and again, correct me if I'm wrong, genetics play a big part in what your body type is, Sure. So there are some people who are, endomorphs, ectomorphs, mesomorphs, which I'm a believer in. My body I'm much more of a athletic built. It's really hard for me to become super, super thin. I have to work really, really hard and eat very, very carefully to maintain that for a certain amount. Like, I think you can waver so much here, back, and like on one side or the other, but I believe, and I don't know if you agree, that everyone has like a comfortable baseline, and to really to deviate really far away from that, it's hard to stay there. So
and you're going to disappoint yourself.
And you're going to disappoint yourself. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I thought it was important that my message was strong as a new skinny was that not everybody could be super skinny, but everybody can be strong.
Right.
And I think that that's a goal that's attainable by everybody. And so why start from a place where you are going to be frustrated, upset, psychologically a spiral in terms of who you are as a person? Start with a place that you can actually go to a place where you can actually achieve something that's positive, and a goal that when you see yourself, I guess, getting to a goal, it's the best motivation to keep on moving forward. And so I wanted to give girls, that message. It was like, you know what? Strong is the new skinny, because I think if you mentally feel a certain way, it exudes outwards. So like if you feel, happy, if you feel strong mentally, physically, and you're like achieving something that's positive, it is the sexiest and hottest thing. I think a girl who's confident and happy with how she is way more attractive to some supermodel skinny girl who's like insecure and unhappy. I think that like a lot of beauty comes from within and how you present yourself.
Right.
And so Absolutely. That's what my message is within all of this. Because like I said, I think a lot of times people are focusing on the wrong things, and they're beating themselves up over things that, quite frankly, it's just out of their control to some extent.
Right.
And I think you see that with guys too. I think it's relevant.
No, 100%.
I know many guys, and you see athletes sometimes who are extreme athletes.
Yeah.
And I have friends who work out 10 times harder than me that could crush me in the gym, but yet their physique looks totally different. You would look at them outwardly and think, oh, that guy's not in great shape. But just because their body responds in a different way.
Absolutely.
And it's really interesting to think about. And I love that you're working on changing that message, because for those people, it is very defeating to have to live with that when they're trying to reach some ideal that they think they should be, but their body internally, they're strong, they're doing all the right things, and they're actually healthy inside, but their body just responds differently.
And to that point, a lot of times those people are not the people that you look at. See, I don't think perception's always reality, okay? And I'm by the way an example of that, because just because you look at someone and they look so good on the outside, you don't know what kind of crazy stuff they're doing on the inside.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? A lot, like, I see a lot of people who, like, I look at them and with at first blush, I'm also like, wow, what are they doing? And then when you peel that, you peel that layer off that onion, you're like, oh, okay, well, they're starving themselves, or they're smoking a pack of cigarettes because they don't want to. They're trying to suppress their appetite. They're taking all sorts of other kind of stimulants to kind of like accelerate their heart rate to burn more calories, or whatever it is. Like, never look at someone else. I think you got to stay in your own lane and stay in your own. What's that saying? Like, when you look at your neighbor's grass, the grass is always greener until you see the water bill, at their house. The grass is always greener at your neighbor until you see their water bill, because it's so true.
Yep.
And then you have these other people, like 1% of the population who, and I've seen this all the time, who basically they pick up that glass of water and they're like ripped. Mm-hmm. Most of the people don't. That's like, you know what I mean? I'm like, huh?
Right.
Like, how's that happening? I'm like, killing it. I'm like watching every calorie. I'm working out and then like, like it takes me like, 2-3 months to even get like a millimeter of that stuff. So I think it's really psychologically damaging, and I think I think the work comes in like from just to circle right back to the beginning of this conversation is your mindset. Like really trying to like tweak what your outlook is, your perception, because your perception is what will change everything on the outside. Mm-hmm. How you look at something is how you're going to respond to everything differently or better or worse. And so the work is really in here. It's not really on your physicality.
Right. It has to start in your head.
It all starts in your head.
Exactly.
And if you don't believe it, then just fake it until you believe it, because there's been a lot of research that says, you know what? If you say something to yourself enough times and you think it long enough, guess what? That becomes the truth, your new truth.
Yeah.
Right.
That becomes your new. What was that?
Incantations.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, you're the doctor, but I mean, still.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. You keep telling
absolutely.
It's you see vision boards out there, but there's some truth to that,
I agree.
You put together your vision board, you see it every day. You're going to make these things happen in your life just because you're focused on it.
Absolutely.
And you have to get your head right first.
Exactly. They say whatever you focus on becomes your reality, right? Like it's sometimes good to have that kind of tunnel vision to kind of see results in that area that you're trying to, change or better or whatever it is.
So step one is getting your mind in the right place and getting realistic expectations for yourself and understanding that it's going to take your body's different than other people's bodies and you're going to respond differently. So if that's step one, and say your mindset is correct, what's step two then? Like how do you start developing the habits that will get you to where you want to be in your vision?
I think with this is like starting small. And I think sometimes it can sound trite or it doesn't sound much, but I think small little habits like drinking an extra glass of water in the morning for hydration, or walking around the block one time. It depends on what the area is. Like that question is kind of, I can go in a lot of different directions, but I think with anything, when you're trying to build a better lifestyle, it starts with basically small wins. In my opinion, small wins equal big change. So don't focus on the overall daunting thing, but do small little tasks that get you there by, like I said, if it's diet, well, maybe then just, like I said, add some glasses of water a day for hydration or not cut out, but eliminate one, can of soda. Like something that's not so daunting where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And like I said, then one little habit turns to 2 habits and turns to 3 habits. And I think the best thing is to do it that way. I also think, and I'm a big believer in this too, is surround yourselves with people that you admire or that you admire and that are like-minded or who can elevate you. Sure. Because those people are the people that are going to have the most I don't know what is that, I'm not the most influence on what you do day to day.
Right.
So if you hang around people who are doing what you ultimately want to do, it will rub off on you just naturally. So surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do. Right. If you don't have those people in your periphery, join a club. When I say a club, not a gym, but join some kind of like club or something where you can meet these people, because I do believe that social element tweaks and changes your habits, rituals, and lifestyle.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the pitfalls there is a lot of people, it's the reverse. A lot of people, they're surrounding themselves with, a group of people where they're the strongest, they're the most influential in that group. So what's going to happen there? If everyone around you is on a level lower, it's going to pull you down.
Oh, absolutely. I talk about that all the time with people. I say, I want to be the most stupid person in a room.
Right.
I do not want to be the smartest person in the room, because then what do you learn? I mean, I want to elevate myself and level up to what other people are doing. If I'm the smartest person in the room, I want to leave. I want to leave. I want to get out of that place as fast as possible. Right.
Yeah.
So I think, and not just to be deprecating, but I think, if not like the stupidest, but or the not the smartest, then like be with people that are that you can pick people that have qualities in them that you admire or you want to get better at. because people learn by action, not by just yapping and talking. So that's what I try to do, and that's what I tell other people to do. And
There's actually scientific data that, the saying, you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out the most with.
I wrote an article about that.
Right. I mean, and someone did an experiment. Like, if you pick one person in a group, everyone averages out to be almost the same weight over time, almost the same educational level over time. It's
You're
crazy.
an example of that.
Hanging out with this guy.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh, exactly. I really believe in that.
Yeah,
I really do, and that's
I
why
do.
if you're around toxic people, there's a lot of research about that as well, right?
Right.
Like why they say stay away from toxic people, find out, weed out the people that are bringing you down. I mean, it's all the same stuff.
Right.
One of my favorite quotes is the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the expectation of your peers. And I think that says that exactly.
Good one.
The quality of your life is in direct proportion to the expectation of your peers. So it's not just the people that you're surrounding yourself with, but the standards that they hold you to.
Right.
If the people around you that you love, that you care about, that you admire, if they expect you to do great things, you're going to rise to those occasions.
Right, exactly. I love that. That's very true. Would you write that down for me? Because I'm going to forget a lot of words in that whole.
We'll add show notes to this one.
Okay,
We're going to have it on our podcast. So it's going to be on our podcast.
I know
You can
exactly. I
listen.
can just replay it over
you
and
can-
over
you
again.
can listen to it.
That sounds perfect. I'll put that on a teaser for
you
my
go.
Instagram.
So
Sounds
do you
good.
believe, as you're going through this health journey, that tracking is an important part of that, like in a journal or
Oh
something
yeah, I was
like
going to
that?
say something. I love how that was great. You should be a lawyer. That's what you should be. This was a wrong profession for you because he's like leading the witness here, 100%. So I was going to yeah. So I do say that a lot. I think accountability, journaling, and tracking is probably the number one in terms of having long-term results, right? Because you see what you're doing, it keeps your brain, your mind. There's a connection between what you're writing, what you're visually seeing, what you're doing. Absolutely. So in my third book, not to segue into my third book, but it's a fitness journal. And it's called Badass Body Goals. And it's not a book, it's a journal for that reason, where you're tracking what you're doing every single day. There's spaces in it. So, and that's, to be honest, and I'm not just saying this because I'm sitting here trying to promote my book, because doesn't matter. The results of the people doing that book, and the reason why it's done very well, is because the results speak louder than anything else. And the reason is because you are being accountable to yourself by tracking exactly what you're doing. And that has been research has proven that time and time again. Because if you don't visually see or physically see what you do, then you forget. You forget little nuances. What you're eating. Oh, okay, I think I had some oatmeal, and I think I had a couple of blueberries. Really? Did you? No, actually, I had 7 cups of oatmeal. It's quantity. You know what I mean? It's about, and that's just on the diet side. But I'm talking even in the fitness side, tracking what you do daily, how much weight you're doing, how many repetitions you're doing. Oh. I mean, that's how people progress and get to their goal and stay and then surpass that goal. Right? That's really what it is. I mean, you need to have that that physical, that tracking to see exactly what you're doing.
Right. And I really I know there's tons of apps out there to track with, but I track both in an app and also on paper. For me,
Yes.
just having that physical piece of paper or a journal,
Right.
like your book, I mean, I think it makes a huge difference to have that physicality to it.
I agree. I actually, I prefer paper. I know it sounds archaic and maybe I sound like a 110-year-old person, but I do think that having it with you, not just because everything is like this on your phone, on your phone. I think having that physical piece of paper around you where you're seeing it, you're carrying it with you, like a real legitimate, like a journal, is better in a lot of ways.
Kind of carries a little bit more weight, has
Yeah.
more importance to it, because we have the entire world on this device right here.
Absolutely.
So if you have something standalone from that, I agree with you. It feels more significant.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know about you guys, but I always write things in my reminders, like a little notes, don't do. I'd always forget to check them. I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot that note. I didn't know even you don't remember. You
have so many apps on your phone.
Exactly.
Stuff is everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right.
It's supposed to be to make your life easier, but in some ways it's actually made it more complicated, right?
And what I like about a journal is it's a special place for this information
Yes.
about your health. And this is something you're really trying to affect and make a change with. You should have something separate and keep it special off of your phone, which has everything in it.
Absolutely. I agree with that. That's a very good point,
Right?
Darshan. Yes, I do. I really like that point. And that's why I think, yeah, so thank you for reminding me about that, because I think it's a very important point, and it's the most important point in a lot of times.
Right.
So
I
thank
love
you.
it. Yeah.
So what about, I guess, next level would be actual biomarker testing. Is that something that you're a proponent of?
Yeah, I did. I was telling Darshan earlier, I think, of course, to know exactly where your level, of course, why not? And then you know exactly where to go from where you can gauge very individually and customize what exactly that person needs. I mean, you know about this. It's what you guys do all the time. We did this. And I was saying to Darshan earlier, I'm like, do I have to do that again? So he
Right.
told me that, well, your genetics are your genetics, obviously, but your levels can always change. So to have a place where to get to an optimized place of health, you need to have those things.
Right.
That's like kind of like I think it's kind of these, in today's time, it's like if you can have that, if you have the ability to do that, why wouldn't you?
And we've had the ability for, decades, but it's never been brought to the public
Right.
other than in a hospital when you're too sick to take advantage of this data. So
Yeah.
now at Next Health, we're bringing that out to healthy people. So a healthy person such as yourself. And we're talking about, she went through and did all of our blood panels and genetic testing, and we sat down and went through all the information.
Right.
And it's great information that's now available to optimize your health and not just when you're sick, finally.
Right.
And yes, you're right.
Like preventative.
Exactly.
It's all preventative.
Right.
And when you have that ability to do it, for sure. Now, how are people actually taking advantage of this already, or is it
Huge.
still kind of
all of our members get biomarker testing with their memberships.
that becomes part of the
Yes.
membership?
Yeah.
That's
Because
fantastic.
when you think about it, we're talking before about these people that everyone has a different body type. Someone could look like they're healthy, but they're toxic inside.
Absolutely.
The only way to know is to actually see what's going on under the hood. So with biomarker testing, we're able to test genetics, food sensitivities, micronutrients, hormone levels, inflammation, gut health. I mean, you name it, we test it.
Yeah.
And there's no hiding from the data. It's real.
It is what exactly.
So you're forced to confront the facts of what your actual condition is, and then the beauty of it is you can then optimize and you can custom tailor what you're going to do in your life. So you're not just doing the latest fad, or you're not just guessing, thinking, "Oh, this might be good or that might be good." You're doing it
Right.
individualized for you for
Right.
what you need.
No, I
Yeah.
think it's fantastic, and that's why I love Next Health, because of because you guys offer those so many things that are so optimal. Like even that we're saying earlier about the infrared saunas. Like now people, you say, even if I want to go, I won't be able to get in because it's like there's a lineup. So what I like about it is that like people are becoming much more savvy and knowledgeable about what's out there. But like I said earlier, what the thing is, there's too much knowledge can be dangerous also, and so people can end up doing a lot of things and not understanding. So like what I like about you guys is like you do offer so many good services that optimize. Now, when someone walks in, I feel like I'm interviewing you now, but like, what do you besides the biomarker? What else do you say to them? Do you take everything from what you get
So-
from those tests and then you give them a program?
We do not just blood biomarkers, but we also do genetic testing. And then we have actual body mass index testing,
Right.
where we have two different machines that measure your body fat percentage and also like 3,000 different points in your body to give us actual measurements of where your muscles are growing and where your fat is reducing as well. So we have a ton of data that we can take and we can educate you, because education is a huge part of this. I mean,
Yeah.
people used to just outsource all of this to their doctor. They're like, my doctor did some blood tests and said I was fine.
Right.
Well, the blood tests he did were just pretty minimal, and they're really not fine, even though you're within the I'm not dying range on the scale, you know?
Right.
So we try to educate you on what's important and what you need to change. And we sit down with you and give you a consultation, and then we'll curate all of our technology to what's going to work the best for you. Yes.
So like this is what I was curious about. If you have, if someone goes and gets their blood test and they take their blood from a regular doctor, how is that different than doing the biomarker stuff, like the
Right.
micronutrients, the inflammatory stuff,
Your
the hormones?
regular doctor's not testing any of that, because none of that has to do with diagnosing illness. You see?
So right. So they're what
Right.
are they? What are those doctors testing?
So they're testing to
Cholesterol?
see. No, well, cholesterol is the one thing they are testing that is actually helpful.
Right.
But they're testing things like a complete blood count, which unless you're like really anemic or you have an infection or something, that doesn't give you a ton of like health optimization data. And we still test that on everybody.
Okay.
They're testing kidney and liver levels. So they're testing to see if you're in kidney or liver failure.
Right.
99% of people in the world are not in kidney or liver failure. We still test for those things
Right.
to make sure you're not dying. But the other testing that we do, such as, like you said, the micronutrient levels, food sensitivity, those are definitely not on the radar of most doctors'
Especially
offices.
gut health.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's why I wanted to make note of that, because I think that's super important, because people think when they go to their doctor, they're going to, I got my blood tested and da-da.
Right.
But it's very detailed what you guys are doing with with all those different things, because like I said, I got my blood not just from you guys, but I guess a month ago from my doctor, and I had obviously my cholesterol checked and my kid, but no, I didn't. I don't know. I didn't find out my hormone levels, my if my body is if there's inflammation, the micronutrients. I mean, there's so many different things that are important for preventative, not just when you're sick.
I can't even.
Right.
Oh, good. I was going to say, I can't even tell you how many lives we've changed with just our biomarker panel. Just telling people you're low in vitamin D. Like 80% of the population is low in vitamin D.
I know.
And no one tests for that. And you can just change people's lives by getting their vitamin D level normalized.
I know, it's
right?
true. I'm surprised that so many people are so low in the vitamin D, actually, because
Pretty much everyone is. I think everyone we've tested is low in vitamin
even
D.
in LA, which you
Right.
think people think because LA is so sunny, there's so much sun, but it's still, I guess, not enough. I don't understand why that is.
Because we're
though.
inside all the time. That's the problem. 90%
Yeah.
of our life is spent inside. We're not really out in the sun unless you're like someone who's working out in the sun. And
Right.
even then, you're wearing clothing. So the sun.
How about sunscreen? Now I feel
And
like I'm interviewing you.
sunscreen too.
Does sunscreen though? It deflects the rays though, right?
Right.
Right.
So-
So you need to have. So what do you do? Just give people supplements for that?
Yeah, so the vitamin D supplementation kind of bypasses the whole issue. Now, of course, we do recommend that you get out in the sun at least 10 or 15 minutes a day, and you want to it's like mostly, if you get out and put your forearms facing the sun, that's usually good enough to where you can make some conversion of your vitamin D to where it's useful for you. But even that is not going to get you to where, like, we're genetically still basically, Paleolithic time. So our caveman ancestors were out in the sun 8 to 10 hours a day for the
Right.
most part. They weren't hiding in their caves until
Right.
nighttime.
They
Wearing-
weren't doing
wearing
podcasts for 5
loincloths.
to 10 hours a day.
Wearing a loincloth, exactly. Right. So, we're not getting anywhere near that amount of
Right.
exposure to sun, and vitamin D supplementation is an easy way to kind of fix that.
Yeah.
And vitamin D is a hormone. It's not just a vitamin. It's actually a hormone that's signaling all sorts of different processes in your body. And when you have your vitamin D level normalized, it can make a huge difference. And normal is 50 to 80. And
Wow.
the little scale that if your doctor does do the test, if it's under 30, it'll say something's wrong, but you're really bad under 30.
Wow.
You really want to get optimized 50 to 80.
That's good information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I might bring you on my podcast for a good reason.
And that's just one of the different biomarkers that, we test hundreds of different biomarkers that actually make a huge difference. So
No, amazing.
Yeah.
And then also infrared saunas where what's the benefit then of an infrared sauna on a more detailed, I mean, I can talk in a very obviously layman's term.
Yeah. So the infrared sauna.
Is this okay that I'm asking you these questions?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. we actually have two different types of infrared therapy at Next Health. So we have infrared sauna pods and we have infrared LED beds. So the sauna pods, they use infrared heat, which is going to heat you up from the inside out. So you get a very deep detoxifying sweat. And there's actually studies out there showing that your sweat has 30% more toxins in it when you sweat from infrared. Because again, it's heating you up from the inside out, pushing out all the toxins.
Oh, wow.
Then in addition to that, it has the full spectrum of infrared light, which forces extra blood flow and oxygen into the cells, and it uses jade stones as well. So you get your full spectrum of infrared light and infrared heat.
Yeah.
Did you want to?
No, and I was just saying, to just infrared and cryotherapy and all the different other modalities, we tie them together to like an optimization program for you that people can take advantage of all these different things in one place versus going to many different places. Right. So you tie in like the stuff that we do on a next level health basis combined with practical real world advice like that you're giving us. And I think putting those two things together is how you can really affect a significant change quickly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not just one thing. It's a combination it's an accumulation of a lot of different things that work together.
Right. If you don't have your exercise routine right and you don't have a good dietary habits, none of the stuff we do is going to make a huge difference.
Absolutely. But then again, like if you exercise and just do diet and don't do all these other things also, like you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit as well if you have access to it.
I look at it as compound interest for life. I mean, we all know what the benefit of compound interest is on your bank account,
right? Exactly.
A penny multiplied over 30 days is something ridiculous like 10 million. But, compound interest of life. I mean, we're on a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
So like you were saying, the little habits that we're going to do every single day, long term, what that implication is going to be, it would be incredible if you're consistent with it.
See, that's the other one, consistency. I mean, that's the other one. Consistency is actually, besides the journaling and accountability, if you're not consistent, it doesn't matter because it's little at a time. Like you're saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint. If people want to, let's say, exercise, they don't have to exercise 2 hours a day. If they just do like 25 minutes, 35 minutes a day, but over time, 4 times a week or 5 times a week, or like I said, eating 80% of the time, eating well, but consistently doing it. These things all make a major difference. It's basically consistency. To kind of summarize, consistency, journaling, building little habits at a time. All of this, and the end result is what people are looking for. But it doesn't have to all happen at one time if you're just consistent.
And because I was going to say the reverse of that is kind of the compound interest of bad habits too. That's where cancer typically comes from.
Right.
30 years of smoking, 30 years of eating something unhealthy, or these bad habits, or 30 years of stress is when these chronic diseases form. So it works both ways.
Absolutely. And that's why so my podcast is launching now, as I'm sure I told you a bazillion times, and it's called Habits and Hustle. And it's really about that. It's about the fact that like how people are successful, not just professionally, personally, like healthily, everything is because of the habits that they're doing day to day, the routines. And like, it's interesting, like when you talk, how many people you talk to and like what people are doing daily, it's things that you've never even thought of, besides like just exercise and everything else, like all this. I mean, about all this health hacks and all this. I find this stuff so fascinating. You're a health hacker. What are you doing right now? Give me your top health hack.
I do a lot of things.
I know you do. You do everything. I feel like you do a lot.
No, I mean, look, no one can do everything, right? You have to pick
try
the
a
ones.
lot of things.
Well, I think, I do try a lot of things because it's my job.
Yeah.
but also, I think that the key is, like you said, many times, if you don't like doing it, you're not going to keep doing it. Right, exactly. And for me, if I can't do something every single day of my life and just keep wanting to do it, I'm going to stop doing it, right? Like pretty much right away. So for me, like trying to find the right kind of meditation was huge for me. Like I did not like meditating until I found the right one.
Which
for
one
me.
are you doing?
So for me, what's been the best is transcendental meditation.
I knew you were going to say that.
That was the one that worked the best out of all of them.
I knew it.
And I tried all the other ones first, because I didn't want to pay whatever I had to pay to learn transcendental.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you like it.
I do love it. Yes.
I knew it.
It's a different form that's worked very well for me. And, I don't get anything from the TM Association, but I thought that worked great for me.
No kickback.
Yeah, none, zero.
I'm kidding.
I mean, the kickback I get is like I feel great in my head.
Right. Which again is all about the mindset. So
right.
anything that you can do, like I said, like you just, like I was saying earlier, that works for you. Kevin, you can try and think it's the worst thing in the world, right? Mm-hmm. But it's
Absolutely.
Whatever it is that's tweaking your mindset to being in that place, that to kind of keep you productive, happy, and doing what you need to do.
Exactly.
Okay, I have a question. What's the difference between TM and the other types? Because I know that people who do it love it and they swear by it.
So there's basically 3 kinds of meditation. One is like focus meditation, when you're focusing on something, whether it be your breath or you're focusing on some kind of object, is very focused. Another one is where you're just really always trying to clear your mind. So you want this empty space in your head. Every time a thought comes in, you just let it go by and make it go away. Transcendental is different than both of those because it uses a mantra, but you're not focusing on the mantra. In fact, you're saying the mantra over and over again to defocus on it, and you get into like a deeper plane where you're just very awake still in your mind, but the best way I've heard it described is that, the ocean has a lot of waves and a lot of like storms on top of it. But as you keep going deeper and deeper, the ocean gets calmer and calmer. So at 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet deep, you don't even know what's going on the top. And it's really just trying to get to that deeper level. And this is why you need someone to teach it to you, because it is a more complicated way of thinking
Right.
about meditation. But once you get it, which takes about 3 or 4 days of the course, I felt that for me, it was the best kind of meditation.
Interesting. And why do you think that worked for you and not the other kinds?
I just feel like the other kinds, I was just very distractible.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
Right.
That's how I feel. I feel like I still have not found yet that, so everybody is a work in progress. I'm a work in progress, and that's the one thing I still struggle with, is finding that thing that kind of like calms me. And so I know meditation is a massive one. And so that's why a couple of people have said to me, you know what, Jennifer, you should try this, like transcendental.
TM,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I think and that's why I'm interested to hear from other people's perspective, why it worked for them and why the other ones didn't work for them.
Yes.
Because I find, like, I try to meditate, and within 4 seconds, I'm like, oh my God, it's been like 2 hours. I'm like, oh my God, no, it hasn't even been 5 seconds yet. It's like the worst. Like, I
Right.
could not be the worst thing. And that's why yoga doesn't work for me either. I'm looking at the clock the whole time. Like, when is this going to be over?
Right.
So can I tell you mine that I feel like you might like?
Yeah,
or
sure.
worth trying at least, because I've
Please.
gone through that same thing, and I've tried all forms of meditation. I've always really struggled with that for that same reason.
Yeah.
I'm in my head. I'm too, just thinking about things and moving throughout the day. So I do an exercise called priming in the morning, where it's a visualization that I go through, and it starts with about 3 minutes of breath work.
Okay.
Just a couple breaths to start, just to calm down and center, like a very, very quick meditation. That's probably 60 seconds. And then a couple minutes of breath work, to kind of high intensity breath work. And then I do a visualization. So I start by visualizing 3 goals that I'm going to accomplish that day, and actually see the goals be accomplished, what I'm going to do for each one by one, the steps that I'm going to take to accomplish that goal, and I see myself doing it. Then I go through and I think of 3 things that I'm grateful for. And sometimes it'll be a big thing, sometimes it'll be a small thing. It could be the smell of something, could be the air, could be my dog. And then lastly, the people that I love.
Oh, okay.
And you end it with the people that you love, and you're visualizing all the people come into your life, give you support, you're giving them back support, and then you end it just feeling fired up and charged up. So there's no point of the meditation that you're kind of just sitting there with the emptiness. The whole time it's kind of an active visualization meditation.
It sounds like an active meditation. It's called
Right.
priming.
Yes.
So you're doing 3 things that you're grateful for, three people that you love, and three
goals.
things that your goals
Right.
are for the day.
Yeah.
How
And
long does this take? Is it like a 10-minute
10, 15 minutes. And you literally jump off just energized, ready to attack the day, which is kind of
Wow.
opposite from normal meditations, because that was my challenge is
Yeah.
I feel so calm and serene, then it's almost like I got to start back over, but I want to just attack the day when I get going.
I like that. I
Yeah.
think I should try that maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is the one area I feel when you're very like a lot of times the pendulum is like you're on one end or you're the other. And how does someone who's like so type A get to that? Like, you have to have a calming force to kind of balance you out, right, with life. And it's so hard for people like that. Like for me, that's my struggle. That's like my Achilles heel, is finding that thing to do that. Because I try and then it doesn't work, and I try this one and it doesn't work. So, and I know they're out there because look, you found transcendental, you found this priming. I mean, I will say something interesting. I feel like with my podcast, I ask people like what they do. I would say 9 out of 10 people say meditation. Now, is it because of the people that we're talking to, or do you think it's because it's become so mainstream now that?
I don't think it's mainstream. I would say most of the population doesn't meditate. I think the people that have discovered meditation
Are such they're so
yes.
passionate about it because it's worked for them.
Yeah, and it's just like when you find the right workout routine,
Right.
or the right gym, or the right diet that helps you keep weight off, and it's easy for you to sustain. I think it's just another one of those things that once you find the right thing, it works for you,
Right.
And you want to tell all your friends about it. But then it might not be
Absolutely.
the right thing for that person. Just like the diet that works for you is not going to be the same diet that works for somebody else. So it's always good to educate yourself like you're doing right now on all the different types out there and try them until you find something that's right for you.
I think it's trial and error. And I think it's also about being curious, right?
Yes.
Being someone who's interested and curious, because that's when you find the best information and things that work for you, right? If you don't ask questions, you just will never know, right? And being honest with what your, what that Achilles heel is, or what you're where you're kind of deficient, because where you're the only way to get better at that deficiency, right, is to ask questions and learn from people who know more than you do, which is why I'm asking you this. So I'm going to try priming and TM, and then we should have another podcast, and I'll let you know how that goes.
That'll be great.
No, that's great. Thank you for that, you guys.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like kind of like information I can use on my podcast.
Feel free.
Thank you very much. So what else do we need to go over, guys?
I think we've hit a lot of big points. It's exactly an hour, which is the time of our podcast.
Oh, wow.
I just want everyone to know where to find you and what's next in Jen Cohen's life. What are we doing next? Yeah.
They can find me. First of all, what's next is I'm really focusing on my podcast called Habits and Hustle. It's on iTunes and Spotify, and it's also visual, like this, audio and visual, where I speak to a lot of people who are thought leaders, tastemakers, influencers, and getting there what they're doing on a daily basis, and their habits, their rituals, and some practical information where people can then apply to their own lives. That's what I'm really focusing on right now. And they can find me at The Real Jen Cohen on Instagram and on Twitter. Same, The Real Jen Cohen. But I'm most active on Instagram. Or you can go to my website, jennifercohen.com.
Fantastic.
How's that?
I love it. So thank you so much for being on our show. And
this was fun.
Yes, and we have to do it again.
We're going to do it again.
A wealth of information. We just scratched the surface.
Absolutely.
Of what's in your head. So I can't wait to get you on again.
I'm looking forward to it. But you're coming on mine first. But
okay.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. You too.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.